The real source of terror in Bangladesh. On Friday, a doctor in western Bangladesh was hacked to death. Last weekend, it was a Buddhist monk in the southeastern part of the country. The week before, it was a Sufi Muslim leader up north. Less than 2 weeks earlier, it was an LGBT activist. Just days before that, an English professor. Some of these attacks have not yet been claimed, but they follow a gruesome pattern. There have been at least 25 violent, sometimes public, killings of religious minorities, secularists, and free speech advocates in Bangladesh since February 2015. A dozen more people have been assaulted in similar ways and survived. Of these attacks, more than 20 have been claimed by the Islamic State, about half a dozen by Al-Qaeda in the Indian subcontinent, and one each by the indigenous Bangladeshi extremist groups Jamaat al-Mujahideen Bangladesh and Ansar al-Islam. The surge is worrying Western governments, which fear that local Islamist terrorists may now be competing for the attention of international jihadist networks or cooperating with them. Several Western countries have responded with anti-terrorism measures. Japan is providing aviation security. The United States has called for strengthening cooperation with the Bangladeshi authorities to counter terrorism and violent extremism. This is a predictable reaction, but it is misguided and dangerous because it proceeds from the wrong diagnosis. The recent string of vicious killings in Bangladesh is less a terrorism issue than a governance issue. It is the ruling Awami League's onslaught against its political opponents, which began in earnest after the last election in January 2014, that has unleashed extremists in Bangladesh. A zero-sum mentality has been the rule of Bangladeshi politics since the end of the military dictatorship in 1991. Between then and 2007, the country's two main parties, the Awami League and the Bangladesh Nationalist Party BNP, traded power every term. Whichever one was leading, the government focused on enriching itself and weakening the other. That left the private sector largely alone to invest in economic expansion and NGOs to provide education, healthcare, and other social services the government wasn't delivering. In some respects, the government's failure to do its job served the country well. The economy has grown by an average of 5 to 6% annually over the last 2 decades. Bangladesh has outdone India and Pakistan on various social development indicators, such as healthcare and education. But the country's political culture steadily deteriorated. The Awami League's relentless campaign against the political opposition and civil society has allowed violent radicals of all stripes to let loose, concentrating the state's limited judicial and police powers on the BNP and its supporters reduces the resources that can be devoted to preventing terrorism and crime. Using illegal means to quiet perceived opponents undermines the rule of law, creating an atmosphere of impunity that emboldens extremists. The first machete killing of a secularist blogger occurred in February 2013, before the last general election. The Awami League reacted as you would expect from an incumbent party. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina left her office to offer condolences to the family and vowed to catch the culprits. But since the party was re-elected, its response to similar attacks has become constructively evasive. It is not clear whether Awami League leaders are even paying their respects to the victims' families. At the same time that the leaders deny the presence in Bangladesh of Al-Qaeda in the Indian subcontinent or the Islamic State, they accuse the BNP, or what is left of it, of conspiring with the Islamist party Jamaat-e-Islami to destabilize the government. Ms. Hasina repeated this charge most recently a few weeks ago, after the killing of the LGBT activist and U.S. Embassy employee Zulkifli Osman. More pernicious still is the government's wavering on free expression. On the eve of a Hindu holiday in September, Ms. Hasina told a group of Hindu leaders that people had the right to practice their own religion but not to hurt others' religious sentiment at a Bengali New Year, responding to this wave of attacks as though it were principally a security issue, rather than a governance problem, would only make matters worse. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, like, share and subscribe our channel.